half in the bag.
Ooh, get some acting chops.
There
Yes.
it is, yeah.
Yes, hello, Disney. I was very disappointed in The Acolyte, and I hope you don't make more of them. Goodbye. There, I did it. I said it.
Oh my God, it worked! Disney just canceled The Acolyte.
What? Well, maybe we do have some sway. Who do you want to cancel now? Movies are back! That's right, kids. On this episode, we saw the indie darling feature film we've been waiting to see for over a year now. The soft reboot of The Crow. We saw Strange Darling, the new film starring America's favorite son and Jay's brother from another mother, Kyle Gallner. But Strange Darling really stars Willa Fitzgerald in a powerhouse performance as the other half of a hurtin', lovin', chokin', chasin', and shootin' couple of love-crazed and confused fools. Woo!
Are you lightheaded now?
Need to put a period in these sentences. But Strange Darling really stars Willa Fitzgerald in a powerhouse performance as the other half of a hurtin', lovin', chokin', chasin', and shootin' couple of love-crazed and confused fools run amok in this wild and truly strange film from director J.T. Malner. You know, we've been saying Gallner, and I think everyone in the world says Gallner.
Yeah.
Because how do you spell Gal?
G-A-L.
How would you spell Gall?
G-A-L-L.
Yes. I don't know if the man knows how to say his own name right, and I don't think anybody has had the nerve to tell him.
Oh, so nobody corrected him on how to say his own name correctly?
Yeah. I don't know.
Many such cases.
What?
You know you asked for this, right?
Just trying to have a good time.
Here we are. It's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. 75 degrees, sunny, beautiful. I would make a joke that it's a bad idea to go sit in a movie theater, but today it was a good day.
Especially since, in this case, we didn't have to worry about other people in the theater.
Yes, that's true.
That's going to be a big part of our discussion, is because we did a video at the beginning of summer called The Death of Movie Theaters.
Yeah.
And in that video, we talked about movie theaters should cut back on screens showing Deadpool and Wolverine and throw in some indie stuff, throw in some smaller things that might appeal to a different audience. And they kind of did that. Long Legs, I would say, falls under that category. And now we have Strange Darling, and we wanted to see it, one, because of that, because we fully support the idea of strange little movies being in the theater right next to Borderlands, but also because we're the internet's #1 Kyle Gallner stands, so we were obligated to see it.
I don't know if you'd call us Kyle Gallner stands. Jay's referring to two Kyle Gallner, not Gallner. Kyle Gallner videos. Our first was our Kyle Gallner triple feature spectacular, which came from kind of just serendipity, circumstance.
Happened naturally, yeah.
Because I was on my voodoo and I was browsing around and I was like, oh, this movie looks neat. And I watched the trailer for, I think it was Passenger, and then I watched the trailer for Dinner in America too. And then there was one other, Mother May I don't know. But I was like, what? And you know, every trailer I'm watching has Kyle Gallner in it. And then I looked and he had like 4 films in the last like year. Mm-hmm. And so I watched one of them. I was like, that was pretty good. And then sort of like kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah.
And then I watched all 3. And then I said, Jay, you should check out these 3 Kyle Gallner films. There were 4. We chose to wait on Dinner in America, which was probably a good thing in hindsight because that deserved its own special like Mike and Jay talks about,
Yeah.
because that was beyond being lumped into 3. That was a fantastic movie.
Yes.
And of course, the cherry on top was Jay's history with Kyle Gallner, which we're not going to go into again. Gallner, fuck.
He should change his name.
Yeah.
Just for us specifically.
The lengthy story is in the other video, but Jay briefly worked on the Nightmare on Elm Street remake as Kyle Gallner's body double or stand-in.
Lighting stand-in.
Yeah, not body double.
No, definitely not.
So I guess we are fans of Kyle Gallner, and mainly he's a solid actor. He's kind of morphed from kind of oddball roles in his youth to kind of dabbling in bigger features like the Freddy movie, Smile, Scream, and
Supporting character in larger movies and main character in smaller movies.
yeah, that's a shorthand way of saying it. He had a lot of one-off roles in like all the TV shows, like a working actor. But now I think he's kind of like smoothed or segued into, I wouldn't say typecast, but a niche, a solid niche of him being like, I don't know, bad boy, criminal, tough guy.
You need someone intense.
Intense.
You call Kyle Gallner.
Yeah, if you
Which
want.
this movie plays on those expectations, which we'll get into.
Yes, but I think I know now if it has Kyle Gallner in it. Him or his agent are good at picking good indie scripts and choosing good projects for the most part.
Yeah.
So when I kind of saw this, I think it was around the time we were preparing for our Kyle Gallner triple feature spectacular, and I was looking at what was coming up next, and I saw this movie in the like coming soon, and I watched not a trailer, but I think the only thing they had available on IMDb in the little video window was that opening scene of the movie when she's driving the 78 Pinto, which I thought was a pacer, and it made my heart flutter. There's a special place in my heart for red pacers.
Okay.
Because my mom had one when I was a kid.
Oh.
And she would fold the back seats down so that it was just the front 2 seats. And me and all of my siblings would roll around in the back and without seats or seat belts.
Oh, okay. While the car was
Well,
moving.
the car,
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
it was like the early '80s, and so we would drive to the mall in the Pacer, and my mom would hit the brakes, and we'd all roll and hit the back of the car, and I still remember that cheap fabric,
Oh,
and
sure.
like the little cheapo dome window in the back was just like pure glass. That was before shatterproof glass, so had we been rear-ended, I would not be alive. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, and then I was like, oh, okay, it's similar. Pinto, Pacer, Gremlin, all kind of like those junk cars from the 70s. So I was like, ooh, what's this, And she's driving, she's, it's just, and he's chasing her in a big truck. And then he realizes he can't catch up to her, so he stops the truck, takes the chance to jump on the back of it.
That whole scene is in the thing you saw on
The whole
IMDb?
scene. Yeah,
Wow.
just
okay.
that, like, just the chase to him shooting her tire out and her crashing her car.
Oh, wow.
And it's like,
And that's how the movie just starts.
Yeah,
The
and that's-
movie just like hits the gas
yeah,
immediately.
It's not necessarily, no pun intended,
No
it's
pun
not
intended.
necessarily a spoiler. It's just like, that's how the movie opens.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, and so I was intrigued. And then I don't think I ever saw the trailer.
I haven't seen the trailer. I try to avoid trailers for stuff that I'm actually like interested in. That isn't like, an Alien sequel or something.
Right.
It's like, oh, I didn't even know like what genre this was. I assumed it would probably be horror or some sort of thriller just because of the Kyle Gallner casting, but
Right.
knew nothing about it going in, which made it a very, very pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
I didn't even know, and this isn't a spoiler, but I didn't even know it was about a serial killer until that opening crawl, that Texas Chainsaw Massacre homage right at the beginning. The text going up and the voiceover, just like John Larroquette in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then boom, it goes right into that scene of him chasing her, and you're off to the races.
Are you a serial killer?
What did you just say?
It's funny because it's another serial killer movie. We just saw Longlegs not too long ago. Both kind of homages to older eras of movies. That movie, though, Longlegs, is very like mannered. It's very David Fincher-like. And this movie, the style is a lot more kind of crazy in parts, a lot more bombastic.
It's a little Tarantonian.
Torontonian?
Tarantinoian.
Yeah, definitely.
And a little Lynchian.
A little bit.
And certain the color, lighting, and the kind of dialogue parts, and it's a little odd.
The
I'm
whole
sure you
it
could
keeps
draw-
cutting back to them in the hotel room,
Yeah.
which is a lot like some of the scenes in season 3 of Twin Peaks. There's lots of hotel stuff with Evil Dale Cooper there, and then the kind of cheeky use of interstitials and telling the story out of order, which is very Tarantino.
Yes. The outer
But it
order.
never felt like you see those Tarantino knockoffs that feel like they're trying so hard to be cool. This never felt like it was trying to be cool. It just felt like consistently intense.
Yes, and it never felt like it was ripping it off, and it never felt like, it was, the only time it showed off was the opening of the film. There's big, bold text that says, shot on 35 millimeter film. It's like, don't
I'm so curious because you guys shot on 35, and I fucking say thank you. But what is it like when you're, yeah.
Always a clap for film is good for me.
See, I discovered that myself because
Oh, okay.
I think Gallner tweeted out, he is the one and only person promoting the film. So if you don't follow Kyle Gallner on X, if you don't follow Kyle Gallner on social media, you'd never heard of this movie. I guess, they made a poster. And that's going to come into our discussion a little bit, because where do you get movies advertised to?
Yeah.
We've discussed this before, but he wrote, if you want to watch a really great indie film shot on 35 millimeter film, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So
Unfortunately, there's so few places to see movies on 35 millimeter. So we're watching a movie shot on 35, projected digitally.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but it still had a great look to it.
Oh, sure.
And I also went back. The director hasn't really done too much. A couple of short films and a feature called Angels and Outlaws, or Outlaws and Angels.
Some sort of Western.
It's a Western.
I noticed Luke Wilson was in it, and whenever I see him now, I think of like the Bruce Willis Geezer teaser movies.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's one of those type of
a bit of
movies.
and Clint Eastwood's daughter.
Oh, yeah,
or
she's in it.
Granddaughter.
I believe it's his daughter, yeah.
Because you got to put Eastwood in a Western. That's a good casting choice. But
Maybe it's a good movie. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
it critically was not received well. I don't think it had bad Rotten Tomatoes scores, which doesn't always mean something. But I watched out of curiosity, I watched the trailer for it, and then and it had a very 1970s Western look to it. And then there were even some film scratches, and I was like, they put a filter on it. But then I looked it up, and 35 millimeter.
Okay.
Some 70s zoom, some zoom lensing going on, and all that. So I was like, okay, so this guy made 2 big features, and all the boxes are being checked here, Jay. In other than an actual projection of 35 millimeter film in the film theater, all of our boxes are being checked.
As far as what we talked about in our Death of Movie Theaters video.
And all the things like that we would want to still happen in this nightmare world we live in.
Yeah, a compelling story that surprises you and goes in directions, and is also, this was my biggest takeaway, because I liked the movie well enough for most of it. But then, like in the last act, it's told in 6 chapters, which is funny because it keeps flipping around anyway, and it almost doesn't matter, but it's told non-linearly. When it gets to the chapter 6, the conclusion of the movie, it becomes so I don't even mean this as a criticism, morally like confused or morally messy, that it propped the whole movie up for me. And I can't really get into it without getting into spoilers, but it's the kind of thing where the actions that are happening and the way the characters react to it, where I can see it being
Well, you just spoiled the whole movie, so I bleeped all that out.
I didn't spoil nothing.
Well, yeah, you did.
That's my biggest takeaway from the movie. I gotta mention
No,
it.
it is the elephant in the room in terms of the plot. But let's get into it.
Okay.
Let's we kind of covered the bases of the actors, the director, the history. I was just gonna say like our dream in life, because we are known as the guys who hate movie theaters. And here's what happened today. I went into the movie theater, and there were 2 or 3 other people in there. I could hear a pin drop. No one was eating a nacho. I mean, it was 11 in the morning.
Sure.
So no one was eating a nacho. No one was talking. Everyone who came to see this film obviously didn't pull the name out of a hat. They knew what they were going to see. And it was quiet. We had nice seats in the middle of the row, right center. Beautiful, small theater, but a theater, great sound.
A mainstream theater, not like one of our local art house
No,
theaters.
it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't an art house theater. It was a multiplex.
Yep.
And and then you have 12, 13, 14 screens, and you have The Crow and I don't know what else. What's Despicable Me 4, Alien.
Deadpool and Wolverine still raking in money.
Yeah,
So.
that's its own thing, but it's like all these like things that are just like IPs or recognizable, products and sequels, and then there's this little like film that's playing in a little theater, plenty of seats, great, and I really hope it does well. I hope it gets good word of, because these kind of movies I think now have to survive on word of mouth.
Yes, which is how something like Longlegs did so well, because that was like the marketing for that movie was genius, and it got people talking.
But it had marketing ahead of time. This movie, not so much.
Yeah.
So this movie has to survive on word of mouth, or has to come to life on word of mouth, because it'll die fast in the theater if it doesn't get a lot of seats filled.
Here, kitty, kitty, kitty.
It is sort of like a pipe dream that this model that we would enjoy would continue for very long. It's a sad state of reality, because I would love a multiplex that has, Alien and Wolverine versus Deadpool, but then also 2 or 3 indie films in smaller theaters that you go and watch blindly, enjoy it. It's something like, I was thinking back to like the 90s. The distinction between a real movie and a low budget movie in the 90s was just like this thick line that was like impenetrable.
Sure.
A real movie produced by real studios, shot on film, has names in it. Even smaller movies can still fit in that category. Then the big line, and then you have like Trauma.
Sure.
Things shot on video that are in the dumpster. Those don't get into multiplexes. But now that line is blurred and thin, because a movie like this, that while it was shot on film, but other movies are shot on ultra high def 4K with good cameras and lenses, and they could look like real movies better than they could in the 90s. You think an anomaly will slip in, like a Blair Witch or something weird like that, but for the most part, the criteria is much higher to get a release in a major theater. And now you can, but ironically, they still don't let them in, because they don't make the big bucks.
Well, that's what I was going to mention is, when you're talking about the 90s and real movies, there were quote unquote real movies that there was a variety of stuff. Now it is all the big movies. The real movies are, the comic book movies and
theme park rides.
Theme park ride movies.
Yeah.
But in the 90s you would have you still have Tarantino movies. He's like one of the few exceptions, but there was dramas and horror film. There was so much variety to the types of mainstream movies that doesn't really exist anymore.
I was trying to think of some movies from the 90s that would just not be in a theater now. You know what I mean? Like if a movie came out in the 90s and it goes in the movie theater, you're like, oh, okay, that's a real movie. And because I worked in a movie theater, and it's Friday and Saturday night, every single theater would sell out, no matter what it was.
Oh, sure.
Kiss the Girls with Morgan Freeman and Ashley Judd.
Ashley Judd's in it, yeah.
And
It was
it's
like one of those like Silence of the Lambs 7 knockoff
yeah,
movies.
and it's like that would be a Netflix original, and that would like not
Direct to Paramount Plus.
But it was like that sold out the movie theaters because it was a movie and it went in the theaters, so it must be real. And that those kind of days are gone. So I don't know, unless a movie has super great marketing before it comes out,
Like Long Legs.
viral marketing,
But yeah, viral marketing.
or has fantastic word of mouth, and that's pretty much it. Because I can see this movie, it being risky to just dump a ton of money into advertising and just not getting the results you want from a theatrical release.
But the downside is you don't put a lot of money into marketing, and then no one knows it's in theaters, and then it doesn't make any money anyway. I don't know. I don't know what the right balance is of those two things.
The little devil on my shoulder says, would it have been a better idea just to do a straight up digital release for a movie like this? And do they make more money? Because our tickets cost $11 each. And I would have paid $24.99 to rent.
Sure.
Or buy or whatever, myself. And you probably would have done the same.
Oh, sure. You pay for that convenience.
Convenience, yeah. But I preferred this in the theater because it was the best theater going experience in a while, because it was dark, I was focused, I wasn't distracted.
The theater's not filled with teenagers that are just there to kill time on their phone for some reason.
Yeah, even still, like this movie isn't like heavy on plot. This is more like an experience or a visceral kind of like emotional role, cat and mouse role. It's not like you have to pay this tons of attention to all the details. It's more just like an experience kind of movie. So I wouldn't have minded a crowd, but just me personally is just watching it in the dark and just kind of like not knowing what the hell was going to happen next.
Yeah.
It made for a good theatrical experience. Yeah, I really, really, really liked this movie. I don't think I would say it was like my favorite movie ever, but I was very entertained by it for reasons we'll disclose next. But oh yeah, the producer of The Barbarian. I'm looking at our videotape called
our Canon Films Barbarians VHS.
It was from a producer of Barbarian, who's Giovanni Ribisi, right?
Well, I don't know if Giovanni Ribisi produced Barbarian, but he was a producer on this movie, and I was shocked to see that he was the cinematographer. Well-known character actor, Giovanni Ribisi.
Sneaky Pete himself ran the camera and knows how to shoot 35 millimeter.
I guess. I looked at his IMDb for like other cinematography credits. It was like a couple of music videos, and like that's it. I don't know what led him to. He did a great job. It's a good-looking movie. Shot anamorphic, I noticed, and
there's even a split diopter shot.
Yeah.
Which is probably super easy to fake in this digital age, but considering they shot on film and they seem to be purists in that form, I'm imagining they really did it.
Yeah, you got to use one of those funky lenses, and you got to find just the right spot where the split is too. Otherwise, it looks bizarre.
I noticed one shot where the camera was moving in on the girl as she's like kind of laying on the bed, and the focus puller was like off by a weird second.
It was in the farmhouse later. I noticed it too.
Yeah, it distorted the lens. She's in the bathtub or in the freezer?
She's in the locker, the freezer, yeah.
Yeah, and then just like because they're moving in and pulling focus, and then something happened where the anamorphic got distorted around the edges. And
they didn't quite hit the mark exactly for 1 second. But that's the kind of
imperfection. I love that.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of the whole movie.
It makes the movie feel alive.
Yes.
There's a moment in Punch Drunk Love where Adam Sandler's on the phone. He's calling the phone sex line, and the cameraman is meant to like, he sits on the couch, so the cameraman's like above him, and he tries to like push down on him, but they completely knock the camera out of the way, and then they go back, and it's just in the movie.
Oh.
Yeah. someone tripped or something. I don't know what happened. But
Oh, boy.
it's just in the movie. But little like imperfections like that where they don't take you out of the movie.
No.
They just kind of make it feel more alive. And all the like use of color in this. They're outside the hotel and there's those blue neon lights blaring in, so the whole scene is bathed in this like blue purplish light.
Yeah. Same with the wardrobe choices.
Yeah.
The dichotomy or the antagonistical forces between the two characters, because she has red bra, black underwear, red socks.
Black bra, red
Yeah,
underwear.
and he has a red and black flannel.
Yeah.
And she has the red car, and he has the black car. So there's some thought put into this film.
Yes.
Um,
Also thought thematically, which we'll talk a little bit about.
To the most prolific and unique American serial killer of the 21st century.
Let's move into spoilers.
Okay. We do recommend seeing this movie and not watching our spoilers. Just go watch it completely in the dark.
The only thing, a negative I'll say about the movie is I absolutely hated the lead actress's performance. Just kidding. That's called a joke. No. I mean
The
opposite.
biggest lie of all time.
I mean the opposite of that. She steals the show, and we'll talk about that in a second. No, I hated how it said this film was shot. Movie was shot on 35 millimeter film.
They're proud of it. Whatever.
You filmed this on 35 millimeter film.
That's right,
which
yeah,
works
yeah.
perfect for this genre.
Don't do that. Just let the cinephiles know. Well, we knew.
Yeah.
We knew going in somehow, because Kyle Gallner told us on Twitter. I looked it up. I did a little research because I often go to technical specs on IMDb. Not so much anymore, but sometimes I'm curious.
And a general audience probably wouldn't even care anyway.
No.
So.
And the general audience wouldn't know. It'd be for the cinephiles, and if the cinephiles know, then you don't have to put that up there, and a general audience is going to go, "What does that mean?" Mm-hmm. And they're not going to care anyways.
Yeah.
So it serves no purpose. I already knew that information, other than to maybe brag about it. So Sneaky Pete snuck that in, I think, just to show off. But that's my only problem with the whole movie.
Okay.
And my other problem with the whole movie is Ed Begley Jr. and Barbara Hershey stole my breakfast routine.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, if you want to watch a movie where you see someone painstakingly cook the most disgusting looking breakfast you've ever seen.
Disgusting.
Begley Jr. in this movie does it.
Delicious.
He should win an Academy Award for best breakfast scene.
Delicious and healthy.
Oh, fucking Christ. That was so gross. I thought I was going to puke.
Okay, so yeah, once again, spoilers.
Okay.
So the film opens with the aforementioned car chase sequence. Kyle Gallner is chasing down a lady, a vulnerable lady, in a much inferior vehicle than his giant, big old black truck.
No idea when this movie takes place, which is nice. It's sort of timeless.
There is the opening crawl is about the serial killer stuff, which I assume is not real.
Oh yeah,
I assume
it's the same. It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre opening.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's a hot nod to the Fargo opening.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, okay, and we can't really tell what's going on. He's obviously given the impression that he's the hostile, and she is the victim. And of course, the movie plays on male and female stereotypes.
Yes.
Expectations and all that kind of stuff. And then the credits roll, and Kyle Gallner is credited as the demon, and she is credited as...
Is it just the lady?
I think so. I think it's just the lady.
The lady, I think, yeah.
So they don't have character names. They're just called like archetypes or just simple descriptions.
They're a representation.
Yeah. And so that's when the movie kicks off. And of course...
And it also starts with, the title comes up and it says something like a thriller in 6 chapters or something. And then it's like, starts chapter 3.
Right.
It's like, they're being, kind of tongue in cheek with the interstitials.
Yes.
There's a dark humor to a lot of this movie, which I liked.
Right.
Not overt or not too broad or anything, but a little kind of a mean streak of humor that I liked.
The story unfolds kind of out of order and not necessarily completely backwards, just out of order.
Yeah.
and in the correct way to get all the information. I think the best stuff felt, I mean, there's so many good scenes, there's so many memorable scenes, but I think like the interplay between him and her in the car that leads to the hotel is a lot of the most engaging stuff.
Yeah, and it kind of cuts back to that hotel a few times. But yeah, everything with them.
It felt very stage play.
Yeah, in a good way.
But yeah, there's like some play and some banter, cat and mouse stuff, as you said, flirting and expectations, and
they're very hot and cold in that hotel room. It's so great. The constant back and forth between like when one of them is into it and the other one isn't, and then it changes.
Yeah, they're playing mind games with each other, although he's not quite into that. But he'll play along, and you know, is she in the right? And then they cut to scenes where it's like, oh, is this happening now? I don't want to get into too many details. Is this oh no, it's not. Pull you back and forth, because as I said in my intro, lovin', hurtin', lovin', chokin', chasin', shootin'. No fucking.
No.
I guess the overall thing is, like you said in the intro, which I probably bleeped out, the male-female role and the stereotypes that follow along, where you start to get this kind of like weird feeling like, is this trying to say something about how society looks at a man and a woman? And clearly it is.
It is, but it's also in a way where I think it's a little more complicated in terms of her character. We're in spoilers, so I won't go into too much detail, but her character uses those conventions and people's general ideas to her advantage, to take advantage of people, which is morally murky in this day and age of people kind of walking on eggshells about not wanting to offend certain groups of people, to take something that is not so simplistic and very complicated and just go like head into it. And sometimes it gets ugly, but that makes it far more compelling than a more simplistic, because it's that scene early on when they're in the car outside the hotel, and she's talking about like how hard it is for a woman, how much you have to fear being constantly in fear of men.
Do you have any idea the kind of risks a woman like me takes every time she agrees to have a little fun?
Never thought about it that way.
Of course you haven't. You're not a woman.
And if you look at that on the surface level before you get to later in the film, you're like, oh, it's a little on the nose, a little, I don't know, did someone at Disney write this? But then, oh no, it's used to great effect later on. And someone can be a very effective killer if they can use societal conventions or the way that most people will think to manipulate them.
Yeah, until you run out of gas.
Yes.
Until you run out of that card that you've been playing.
It'll only get you so far.
So what are you most excited to see tonight in a theater with people?
I think it's really exciting to get to watch this movie in a theater with a lot of people, because there's always vocal reactions. You can kind of like feel the audience moving through everything, and it's fun.
She does a great performance in this. So she's the star of the show.
She was on the Netflix Fall of the House of Usher. That's, I think, the only thing I've ever seen her in before. Yeah. But man, we went to this movie for Kyle Gallner, and she had much more complicated performance to work with, and she did great.
Yeah, and clearly she's mentally unstable, but there's no. I kept thinking of Eileen Wuornos when watching this. She was very damaged growing up, and that it kind of turned into a serial killer kind of thing. And it's like, where, you know, you got Dahmer or other people that kill either for fun, or Dahmer had like a weird sexual problem with his head, and there's all these different reasons, and this doesn't get into that. And then there's like kind of early scenes where she's into like S&M and choking, and is she really, is that just part of this, like, does she just get off on these mind games?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They leave it all open because we're only seeing this small window of time in her life.
Yeah.
Which I liked because then, it could be like, well, what is her past that made her understand how to manipulate people or play off people's expectations?
And there's no, because she's known as the Electric Lady because she carves EL into his chest and I guess brands her victims. She says, I never carved one there before.
She does it right on his heart. And it's like, does she really like it?
It's a love story, really.
It's kind of a love story.
But when the two cops that eventually pick her up after the incident, which we won't say, she confesses, or they ask her if she's the Electric Lady, and she says yes. And the one female cop's like, like she has a look of terror on her face, like they know who this person is. They've heard of her. But the one thing we never had is that like a dumb exposition sequence where you have the FBI agent and his assistant who have been going around. They will say, we're on the hunt for the Electric Lady. She's had 12 victims. Every victim has been a male that looks like Kyle Gallner. And
she carves her initials on every victim. We don't get any of that.
Yeah. I guess
we don't even see like a newspaper headline anywhere.
No, yeah. And there's no her first victim, she did this, and then she's upped the ante every time and started blah, blah, blah. The only thing I could think of was that seemed sort of superfluous plot-wise was that Kyle Gallner was married and he was either separated or in the process of being divorced from his wife, because he mentioned they have different shelves for their different groceries. Like they still live together, but
I thought that was just a nice little bit of backstory without giving too much exposition.
Yeah,
just to give him a little something.
Yeah, it could be motivation. Like he told her all that in the bar, like, hey, we can go back to a hotel and hook up, but I'm still married technically, and maybe that's like, ooh, you monster, like.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That could easily be like a boilerplate fucking backstory for her. Her father cheated on her mother. And then, we don't get none of that.
Nope.
We just get like grisly violence, uncomfortable sexuality, choking, right out of nowhere murder. Like that's why it felt Tarantino-esque, and like kind of in your face. The 90s were back, baby.
The violence in this never got gratuitous though. Like no. I feel like a lot of recent kind of lower budget, more kind of artistic horror films will then have that sudden like burst of extreme violence. And this never went over the top with it. It always felt very like realistic.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it didn't get stupid. No. And all the murders were like kind of purposeful and there's no like CGI blood spatter.
There's that too, yeah.
So many good like gushing blood effects and just spraying the bear spray and him when he's getting he has a bunch of ketamine in his system and he's like barely functioning. He's like firing his gun at her.
Yeah.
And just so many great
that leads to
shocking moments.
Yeah, and that leads to a great little kind of dark comedy moment where he starts using cocaine the way Popeye uses spinach to get his strength back to chase her.
Yeah.
And that's like an hour and 20 minutes into the movie, which then ties in with the opening of the movie because it's told out of order.
Yeah. It's a perception. In the beginning, you see him like snorting coke and running around with a shotgun, but really he's on the hunt.
He's doing it because he's zonked out on drugs that she gave him.
It's the counterbalance, the ketamine.
Yeah.
So many, and then who could forget the Scott Baio puzzle? I mean, like what an oddball touch.
An oddball touch that they then feel the need to justify, or she's like, we don't like Scott Baio. They just give these puzzles out for free. Like nice little character touches like that the movie doesn't necessarily need, but it adds so much, kind of flavor to it.
And those things, it was subtle.
Even the fact with those characters being like older hippies and he's an old biker, like you don't need to give them those little details because they're basically just serial killer fodder. But adding those little details just adds so much kind of texture to it.
But it added them in a way that was it was subtle, charming, and just enough. Unlike is it who writes those Halloween movies? Danny McBride or?
Oh yeah, all those supporting characters.
Yeah, we didn't have 40 minutes of them talking about their Scott Baio puzzle.
Right.
We didn't need that. We showed them making breakfast.
And that was all we needed.
They're hippies. They're at the end of their life. They enjoy this gluttonous, disgusting Sunday breakfast, and putting puzzles together. They're living their life in the woods, and that's all we. So subtle. It wasn't like, look at how clever we are by adding these weird, quirky character traits to these kind of pointless characters.
Yeah, I remember that older couple in Halloween Kills when they're flying the drone around the house and it goes on forever.
The goblins will get you if you don't watch out. They take you and shake you.
Oh man, I got peanut butter on my penis.
I like being out in the woods.
No, I enjoy it, but I'm missing dance class for this.
If I had some other kind of babysitter, she'd be reading me a story. I wouldn't be up clipping my nasty ass toenails.
Banh mi is essentially just the Vietnamese version of a French baguette.
Yeah, and at that point in the story in this too, where we do kind of take a break from the story to watch them make breakfast for so long, because it's told out of order, like that's a perfect point in the movie to have kind of a break from the intensity. It's like, okay, we've seen all this stuff, we're kind of caught up to speed, now we're gonna relax for a second before things get dark again.
Because we know he dies, and we assume it was Kyle Gallner that killed him. Information out of order, plays with your brain a little, tingles your entertainment zones of your brain. Things come out of nowhere that you don't expect. So I really hope no one watched everything we just talked about.
Gotcha.
So recap, wonderful time at the theater. I did
with a movie worth supporting at the theater.
Yeah. It's definitely a movie worth supporting, or movies of its ilk, I guess. Fantastic performances, interestingly structured, well made, just overall entertaining. It's like a little actual roller coaster of emotions.
Sure.
I was appalled.
Not in the Alien Romulus way.
No. Appalled, shocked, uncomfortable, delighted. I chuckled. I mean, it was a very, very interesting movie. And then the very end, the last 3 minutes, amazing. When there's a monster in a movie, like a wild grizzly bear that's mauled 10 people, and finally they shoot it, or when the big creature dies at the end, and you see it struggling, and you have a sadness for it.
Oh, sure.
And you shouldn't, but you do. And Willa Fitzgerald's death scene, spoilers, is amazing because it completely circles back to the beginning. The beginning's in black and white, and she asks him if he's a serial killer. Comes back, and she gets shot by someone, and she's just kind of slowly dying, but kind of she talks about death earlier, how she would rather be in jail than dying, and she's scared of dying and all that. So that comes back, that emotion is laid on top of that performance, and just the fact that it just doesn't cut away from her. And her weird contortions and her struggling, and she's just trying everything she can do to hang on, and very slowly, I don't call it cliche or artsy fartsy or whatever, they start dipping the color to black and white as the life drains from her. And it's just it was so good. It made me emotional and feel sorry for her and kind of sad, much like when you see that the horrible creature that you've been wanting to kill the whole movie struggle with the bear has a spear in its side, and it's struggling to stay alive, but the whole goal was to kill the bear, and you kind of feel bad for it because it was operating on instinct, the bear, and almost in a way she was, if she was just straight up mentally ill, is that she clearly was, because they never explained any kind of trauma or whatever, but clearly she was just straight
Well,
up.
she sees demons, she says. That's like the only thing they give her.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't see people, I see demons.
Yeah.
Which we get like a quick subliminal cut of earlier.
There's something in there.
And when you see it earlier, you don't know what the fuck it is at that point in the story.
So yeah, and makes you feel bad for her, and she's done horrible things, and that pulling that emotional reaction out of that performance of just gurgling and dying, and not in a cliche movie way where you're like, but just the weirdness. It kind of reminded me of the first Omen scene when she's having that like spaz attack.
Which is a reference to the movie Possession. But yeah, she's like flipping out in the street. And it's very like unmovie-like. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and this was an unmovie-like death scene. It was almost like too realistic.
Yeah.
And so well directed and well acted there. Oscar nomination for Willa Fitzgerald.
It won't happen, but it should.
It won't happen, but it should.
There's always one of those every year where it's like this movie or this performance deserves some nominations and it won't get anything because of the type of movie it is. I felt that way about Lupita Nyong'o in Us when Us came out. She's so good in that movie, but I knew that wasn't going to get anything. If they call it a thriller like they did with Silence of the Lambs, that's how it'll get nominations.
Just drama.
Don't call it a horror. Just call it a drama, sure.
Period drama.
It's potentially period. I don't know when it takes place.
It takes place in 2023. It's a period drama.
Someone's still driving a Pinto from the 70s.
That was the maid's car that worked at the hotel.
Yeah. I love the awkwardness of that scene too. Like, every like scene feels so natural and realistic.
Okay, that's it. Go see Strange Darling in the movie theaters, everybody.
Do it. You never thought you'd see us recommending going to the theater, huh?
Yeah, you'll be fine. No one wants to eat nachos. Just go and see it. Well, let's say go see a matinee, but go see it at night.
That should be on the poster. No one will eat nachos next to you.
Yeah.
It's the highest recommendation from RedLetterMedia.
So good job, JT Mulner. When Kyle Gallner walked on set, did they say, Mulner, meet Gallner? And he said, it's Gallner. And then he goes, it's Malner. But it's Malner. Malner, Malner. Oprah. Let's close it out on a 40-year-old reference no one gets. Thank you, Mr. Letterman. Oh my God, you cut your hair?